Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're welcome to today's class again, brothers and sisters. And as always, it's me, your friend and brother, Abu Zubayr. Now, we're continuing our class. And in our last class, we talked about Sifatul-Huruf, and we explained to ourselves that Sifatul-Huruf, there are two categories of Sifatul-Huruf. There's the first category where we talk about attributes that have opposites. That is, when the letter has one, it cannot have the other one. And I explained that there's another category, and these are the categories we are going to today. This is the category of those attributes that letters can have one and also have the other one. They do not have opposites. They are just characteristics with which we can describe letters. Just like humans too. They are tall. A letter is tall cannot be short. A letter is fair cannot be dark. Now these are contrasting attributes. However, if you say a person is kind, for example, that person is kind. A person that is kind can also be tall. A person that is kind can also be short. So kind and tall are not contrasting attributes. So one can have that. So these are the second part of sifat, that is, those that do not have opposites. Now, these sifat, there are 7 of them according to some scholars, and some said 8. But we're going to talk about the 8th one as well. Now, let's start. The first one is as-safir. The first attribute is known as as-safir. As-safir means whistling. Whistling. Now, there are 3 letters that have this attribute of safir, that is whistling, and they are shod, sin, and zayu. Shod, sin, and zayu. If you look at these 3 letters, they are the letters that deliver whistling sound when you pronounce them. Remember, I told us that when you want to get the articulation of letters, scholars have told us that we should put alif hamza and sukun on that letter. So let's try it. Now this is ash, 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 and this is as, and this is as. Now, these 3 letters, one way that scholars have explained to us that we can distinguish between them, especially between these 2, is that shod gives out the sound of a sparrow, like if a sparrow is whistling. Yeah, ash, and sin gives out the sound of a snake, like when the snake hisses. As, Shiratal mustaqim. Ihdina shiratal mustaqim. You can see, shiratal mustaqim. There are 2 different ones. No, so not siratal mustaqim. One has to be very careful. So, as, and this, as, zayu, gives out the sound of a bee, like when a bee buzzes. As. That's the difference between these 3. So these are the ones that have the attribute of as-safir, and that is the whistling attribute. It's important that we do not call sin and shod together. Many people make this mistake, and it's a very big mistake. When you say surah and shura, they are not the same, and they are not even pronounced the same. It's only if you don't know how to pronounce it that you call them the same way. Surah means chapter, shura means picture. So when you call it the right way, then the person that is listening to you will know what you are saying differently. Now the second group is the caller. Al-Qalqala. Al-Qalqala is an attribute that gives off a vibrating sound. The attributes of letters that give off a vibrating sound. Something like a vibrating sound when you pronounce. And not really a vibrating, but a plosiveness. If you remember, when we talked about the attributes of letters that have counterparts, there's one attribute that we said that has the attribute of plosiveness, and that is shidda. If you remember, shidda. Now, of the letters of shidda, all the letters of shidda are the letters of qalqala. All the letters of qalqala are the letters of shidda, but letters of shidda have two other letters that are not part of letters of qalqala. Now, the letters of qalqala are these: Qaf, Ta, Ba, Jim, Dal. Kutub Jai. Now, these 5 letters, when you come across them in your recitation in the Quran, when they have sukun, that is when they exhibit this attribute of qalqala. Or, having sukun in the Quran can be 2 ways. Either the letter has sukun on it, or the letter is being given sukun because we are stopping on it. When we stop on a letter in Arabic language, we give the letter sukun. So in the Quran, when you recite the Quran, if you want to say yu'minun, notice that nun at the end does not have sukun, or we are giving it sukun because we are stopping on it. So whichever way you are giving that letter sukun, if it is any of these letters that you are stopping on, or it has a natural sukun by itself, you are going to apply the rule of qalqala. And the rule of qalqala means apply that plosiveness. That is, when you stop on it, you stop, then you give a little bit of sound. Stop and a little bit of sound. It is between having vowel and having consonant. That is, having haraka and having sukun. So, let's give an example of this. This is up, 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 up. Take note of that, not up. Because many students make the mistake of this, like when you're learning something falak and say, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. No, it is not pa. It's just po. Up. So, take note of this. And also, this one, atto, not attu, not atto, not atti, but atto. So there's a plosiveness, that is a stop, then a release of air, a stop and a release of the sound. So atto. So you can try the other ones to yourself. That is qalqala. It is important. Now, there are 2 kinds of qalqala. We have al-qalqala to sughra and al-qalqala to kubra. Al-qalqala to sughra is that qalqala that we apply when the letter is in the middle of words. While al-qalqala to as al-kubra, which is the major qalqala, is the qalqala that we apply to letters. These letters, when they are at the end of a verse or wherever we want to stop, when they are at the end. So that is the major qalqala. Now the major qalqala is easier than the minor qalqala. That is the qalqala to sughra. How? It is because when these letters are in between words, students tend to give them another haraka. For example, when you say abd, you hear abd, and that's not correct. It's just abd, just abd. And also, one very popular mistake that we used to make in Sifatul-Huruf, Qul huwallahu ahad. That is wrong. It's not ahad. It's just ahad. The plosive. Take note of that plosive. Just stop on that letter and a little bit of articulation of the letter. Ad. Qul huwallahu ahad. Ahad. Just so take note of that. I don't want the video to be too long, so I'm going to be very fast. Also, the third one is alim. 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 Now, the attribute of alim. Alim means easiness. Easiness. That is, when we pronounce it, there's ease in the pronunciation. We usually don't use any organ when we are pronouncing this. It's just the shape of our mouth that brings out the sound. And the letters that have these attributes are waw and yao when they are preceded by a letter that has the fatha vowel. Take note, waw and yao when they have vowels themselves, when they have haraka, tashkil, that is wa fatha wa and ya fatha ya. When we pronounce them in this state, when they have tashkil like this, it is different from how we pronounce them when they have sukun like this. So this one pronounced gives off ease when we pronounce it. Ow, I, ow, I. So just the shape of the mouth gives off the sound. That's why they have the attribute of easiness. That is alim, ow, I. Very easy. That's very easy. Now the next one is al-inhiraf. Al-inhiraf. Now al-inhiraf, this attribute means deflection. That is, when the sound is being articulated, when the letter is being articulated, the sound is being deflected. When it's coming, it's being deflected. And there are two letters that when we articulate them, they exhibit this attribute. They are lam and ra. Lam and ra. When you pronounce lam, you notice that the tip of the tongue touches the alveolar, the top part of your mouth. This front part, the top part. So when the sound of that al is coming out, is that it's deflected to the side. Likewise, ra. R on its own part. Ra on its own part is like there's a stricture in the space that is going to pass between the tip of the tongue and the alveolar, that upper part of the mouth. So when you say R, there's like a stricture and the hair is not coming out directly as it should. So that is the deflection that occurs when pronounced R. Now the next attribute I'm going to is about raw. So I won't talk about raw much in this one. So the next attribute is at-takrir. At-takrir. Now, the next attribute is at-takrir. At-takrir means like repetition. It means repetition. So when we talk about, like when you pronounce raw, there's like a roll of the tongue. When you pronounce raw, raw is the only letter that has this attribute. You see that there's a roll of the tongue when it happens. However, one must be careful not to roll the tongue too much, because it will be tantamount to pronouncing more raw than the raw that is written. Instead of I say you are saying more raw than the raw that is there. Just there's a vibration with the tongue when it runs out. So it's important, one should not say like this word. Let's say Ar-Rahman, or let's say Ar-Rahim. Let's use Ar-Rahim. Now, this word Ar-Rahim Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahim. Not say Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahim. That is wrong. It's Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahim. Just that single role. Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahim. Not Ar-Rahim. Take note. It's important to be very, very wary of this mistake while we're pronouncing wrong. Now the next attribute I'm going to go to is al-istitala. Now al-istitala is the attribute of extension. Like when you pronounce this letter, the pronunciation is extended throughout the side of the tongue. This is a very unique letter, and that letter is dod. Dod. This letter, because of our mother tongue, we could have some problems pronouncing this letter. It's even better now. He said that in the earlier days, our father used to pronounce as al. That's why they say wala lolling. That's even very wrong. But even now, some of us pronounce it as dod, door, and it's not door, it's door, not door, but door. It's coming from, you see that when you pronounce it, the side of the tongue is where it's raised up, and then your tongue also moves forward. What you're saying is door, ad. So this requires practice. You see, all these letters that you are learning, it requires practice that you are learning them. One cannot just get it at once. And so one may, but most times, one will not be able to get it at once because we are used to a particular way of speaking. So if you are going to learn this, we are going to learn it over time so that we can practice and we can make sure that our own tongue too is able to move in that manner. Ad. It's important that if one is struggling to understand this, you need to go physically to a Tajwid teacher that will explain this to you. If you need help with this, we are available. You can reach out to us in the comment section and we'll put you through inshallah. So, ad, that's the pronunciation for this. That is dod. There's a lot of explanation on this dod, but then this video will not accommodate that extensive explanation on it. Now, the last one is, the seventh one, I think the seventh one, yes, is at-tafashi. At-tafashi means spread. The spread of air through the top of the tongue and the upper part of the mouth when you pronounce this letter. And this letter is the only letter that has this attribute. And that's the letter shin. When you pronounce shin, ash, you feel like air is spreading throughout your mouth. Ash. Yes. It's only shin that has that attribute, at-tafashi. So it's very simple. Ash. So now, the next attribute I want to talk about here is the attribute of this attribute. Some scholars don't add it as part of this attribute. So some scholars, these are the 7 that they categorize as those attributes bila diddi. That is, those attributes that do not have opposites. Yeah. However, some scholars also used to add this to it, al-gunna. Al-gunna, it just means nationalization. So it means nationalization. Yes. So when we talk about Sifatul-Huruf, we said that there is a part of the speech organ that gives off nationalization, and that is the nostril. So those letters that when we pronounce them, we use the nostril while pronouncing them are those letters that have the attribute of gunna, and they are mim and nun. Mim and nun. And you see that we are producing them also using our nose. And so there are the two letters that have the attribute of al-gunna. So these are the opposites that these are the letters that and the sifat that do not have opposites. So these are those letters, these are those attributes that letters also have. So I hope we have a bit of understanding of some of these letters. However, as we know, now these videos are not a comprehensive videos on this lesson, because the lesson of Tajwid requires that we devote time to it and we practice it. So it is good for us to also attend madaris, that madrasas, where we are going to learn more on Tajwid. I'm going to focus, I'm going to have time to practice more and more with our ustaz. It's impossible for us to practice. Just watching one video one time might not be enough. You may need to rewatch and watch again and practice and practice and practice. However, it is not to say that we cannot get it at once. Our brains are different. We may be able to get it at once. May Allah grant us ease of understanding, beneficial knowledge, and success in our endeavors. Till we meet again in the next video, it is me, your friend and brother, Abu Zubair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.